Today, I have the distinct pleasure of going through the 7 pillars of customer success, a book by Wayne McCulloch. Hello, my customer success friends. Eric Eases here for CSM Practice, the customer success consulting firm. I loved this customer success book. And even if you read other customer success books, this is the one I highly recommend. There's a ton of good ones, but the reason this book resonated with me, Wayne, is how well aligned it is with what I preach with customers. So welcome to the channel, and thank you so much for dedicating some time to review some of this content with our viewers today.
No, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm just really excited to be talking to someone that I really respect, and I get to be part of this, and I'm just super happy. So thank you for having me.
Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone, subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the great videos that we produce on customer success.
This book is really amazing, and I know how much work you put into it. And I kind of wanted to show the viewers and kind of touch with you on some points that I don't think are spoken enough in connotation to customer success. And one of those things is kind of like, I love how you frame customer success toolbox. And you have about 10 toolbox items? Yeah.
Moments of truth, playbooks, customer health, customer risk framework, success plans, segmentation, voice of the customer, QBRs and EBRs, customer delight, and finally the metrics.
I want to double click on moments of value and kind of explain how you then leverage that to explain other concepts. It's really so well done. So one of the definitions that you have for moments of value, by the way, a concept that's really well defined and very often used in customer experience, but you managed to so well interweave that into customer success. I'm just going to read it to the viewers. Anytime the customer comes into contact with any aspect of a company, however remote, he or she has an opportunity to form an impression. How does that translate into customer success?
One of the challenges of customer success is people outside of customer success in a company believe, oh, you own the customer success, right? And we know customer success should be a philosophy, not a department. And so when you think about that definition, I see customer success as an organization's role. I hate using this word, but I feel like it's almost like the parent of everyone else. It's kind of to call out where we do really well at creating value or amazing experiences outside of CS. It could be in finance, it could be support, it could be in any department, but it's also our responsibility to call out opportunities for improvement to other functions as well as our own. And so for me, that's why I talk about it. It's any touch point in your organization. It could be marketing, it could be the website. No matter where the touch point is, that opportunity to create some value, to create an experience that's unique, it's on us as customer success to kind of look at that from the customer's lens and say, how could we be better? What can we do better? And one example is simply sending out renewals notices, 30, 60, 90 days in advance. And we typically send, hey, your renewal's up for renewal. It's on this date. It's this amount. Here's your payment terms. Here's a penalty. Like, it's very corporate. And I'm like, why can't we reimagine that process where when we send the note, it's like, we are so excited to be partnering with you. And this opportunity to extend that partnership is even more exciting for us. We've had incredible wins, and insert a couple of those value wins you've had, those ROI, those impacts you've had in a positive way. Put that in the note, even though it's not going to the business owner or necessarily the sponsor, it's going to someone in procurement. It's another opportunity for your brand to sort of talk about how exciting it is to partner together, evidence of wins, and it really starts to create customer experiences outside of just the small group of people we interact with as CSMs, for example. And so that's why I kind of think of it as more broadly than just a customer success department thing. It's much bigger than that.
Truth be told, Wayne, who's accountable for detecting moments of value and the opportunities to improve them? Is it the chief customer officer, or is it down to the CSM? And how often do you recommend those teams to actually do this exercise proactively?
It actually requires both. Chief Customer Officer is responsible for understanding the journey. So there's a great quote that I put in the book from Scott Hudgens from Walt Disney World. He said, No one owns the customer, but someone always owns the moment. And the chief customer officer's job is to be able to map out what the moments of truth are in the journey and who owns those moments of truth. CCO, establish that journey, the moments of truth and who owns it. Then execution, it then becomes not just who owns that moment, but who supports them in that moment. So if it's professional services, what is the CSM's role to support the PS person, making sure that they can execute effectively, just like it could be the reverse. And for me, just mapping that out is one of the things I highly recommend having customers help you build the customer journey map. I did that at Looker, where we invited customers in to say, help us build your journey. What was it like? And they're pointing out things you would never think of because they're not to do with your company. It's like, I'm trying to argue with our database administrator on getting access to this port. That's nothing to do with you. You're not involved in that. This is a battle the customer's facing. And I'm like, well, we could give you a best practices. We start to open up what role we can play to help accelerate value that has nothing to do with our company or product necessarily. It's to do with the challenges a customer faces. So once you've built that out, identified who owns it, then everyone can go about trying to make that moment of truth special, important, effective, efficient, whatever the requirement is.
How often would you recommend a chief customer officer to do this exercise and update the customer journey map?
I'd say yearly it needs to be done. That's no question. But I do think there are exceptions. For example, if your company acquires new technology, if your company adds new products, if something significant happens that could impact the customer, positive or negative, it's worthwhile sitting down and just saying, okay, what does that do to our map? And so there should be more regular touch points. But if you're a fairly mature company and things are just moving along as normal, maybe yearly is fine. But if you're a smaller, maybe more nimble, fast growing, you're going to have to review this much more often than that, just because the journey is going to change and you've got to adapt to that as fast as you can.
Yeah, on that point of mergers and acquisitions, another imperative and important key in doing this customer journey map with this new team is just to make sure that the language is consistent. The team internally feels like part of the organization, and customers that might have both products don't feel like they're working with two different companies, but there's one way that this new entity is now doing business.
Yeah, I'm living that right now. So inside Google Cloud, you have the GCP products like BigQuery and stuff, and that's well known. But then there's also these other products like Looker was an acquisition, Apogee, Chronicle, there's all these other products. And so part of my job is actually not directly on the customer. Part of my job is to say, well, how do we align job roles and functions and roles and responsibilities so that even internally the employee experience is as best as we can make it? I always say employee success equals customer success. So we got to get that right. And so thinking about that consistency internally, and then that can manifest itself in the way that we approach our customers, in our language and our tools, as you said, like all the way we approach things. So it becomes more cohesive to the customer and it's just one company.
One of the things that you talk about in the book, specifically on page 55, is moment of value triggers. And I love how you categorize them into different types of moments of value. Can you expand on like what are the different types and maybe touch on one or two examples?
One of the things for me when I was doing the book was thinking about, I know that there are these triggers that exist. I know because I've experienced them. Clearly for me, there are these 5 event triggers, things that happen. So lifecycle triggers, onboarding, adoption, renewal. These are part of the customer journey, and these trigger certain playbooks that we can deliver in a consistent, scalable way. Then there's customer event triggers, the drop in usage, change of sponsor, a low NPS score, things that come from the customer to us are triggers that we can say, oh, I know what that looks like. I have a playbook to go address that. The CSM team can go execute and bring in and partner with any other orgs that are necessary to go, solve that problem or improve that situation. Then we have these scheduled event triggers. So things like QBRs, EBRs, monthly check-in, renewals, things that are sort of already scheduled out. I know they're coming, so I shouldn't be surprised when they get here. We have CSM defined triggers. So these are triggers like you have an upsell opportunity. That's one thing, everyone's like, well, should customer success managers be selling or not selling? And I'm like, CSMs uptell. They don't upsell, they uptell. And what they're telling is value. how can you get more value from our products, our services, other products you don't have? Where is there unlocked value that you can get access to? And you uptell those moments of value to the customer. That is what creates a CSQL, or a customer success qualified lead, that you can give to sales and they can go do what they're great at, which is go close deals, run commercials, do all that stuff. CSM should be uptelling, which creates the opportunity to sell, that another team that's already equipped and trained and built processes around doing, that's what they should go do. But the CSM really creates those leads. And CSM defined triggers are uptells, cross-tells, customer webinars, things that the CSM is driving for their customer. And then finally, there are vendor-driven triggers, release readiness, annual customer events, conferences, things like that, hackathons, things that your company puts on. And once you realize that they're the sort of 5 triggered event types, then you can start mapping out in your company and saying, well, what should we have playbooks for and what should we be ready for? And that's how it works.
I really appreciated how you weaved the moments of value as a tool in completely optimizing the renewal process. And I know you already touched on it as an example, but can you expand now that you've sort of like elaborated on the different categories of triggers of moments of value? How does that all come together?
Customer success should own renewals in SaaS. Very clear on that. I do think that is the most optimal, best outcome. And I've seen it work in some of the biggest cloud companies on the planet. But I do understand not every CSM team has that ability, and you sometimes have to partner. So what I tried to do is, when I thought about retention and going through the customer process, is I said, you got to build a playbook. It really comes down to, here, you work back from when the renewal is and you say 30, 60, 90, 120, and you go all the way back and say, in a renewals process, what are all the components that need to line up for a successful execution of renewal?
All the moments of truth.
All the moments
in the renewal process.
In the renewal cycle, and who owns the moment. And sometimes it's a CSM, sometimes it's a renewal manager who could sit inside or outside CSM. Sometimes it's services, sometimes it's finance, or legal, but there are people there. And then going to those teams and saying, okay, here is your responsibility. Let's make sure it's spot on. And then as customers come up for renewal, the playbook just runs over and over and over, and you just keep executing. That's how I thought about it, which was, the playbook is the thing that ties all the teams together, because it captures the moments of truth and what activities need to happen. And more importantly, when.
What really resonated with me, if I can be frank with you, Wayne, is that you wrote something that was absolutely brilliant. You say, after you list out the moments of truth ahead in the renewal process and work with other departments, you have to be conscious of delivering value in every moment of truth. You're literally converting moment of truth to moments of value.
You're exactly right. And the example I gave earlier of finance, like one of the playbook things is finance will send a sort of heads up, renewals coming, just letting you know so you're prepared. That's a moment of truth that can be converted to a moment of value. Like you said, the example I gave, which is, rather than a stock standard, this is what's coming, heads up, take advantage of a communication, regardless of who it's to show value. And as I said, like, we love partnering with you. We've had joint successes, and list them. And if you list them, you are showing value. You are creating a perception in the procurement or the finance person's mind, in the customer, saying, well, this company's pretty cool. Like, look at all this stuff. They don't get that from other vendors. They're just like, should we pay this? I don't know if we're getting value. It's on the list to be cut. Okay, well, we won't pay it for now until you get through it. But if you start to sort of infect them with this great energy of excitement of working together, of having value from both ways, they're paying you money, you're giving them value, that's a win-win. There's just such unique opportunities to create value everywhere that aren't difficult to do. Sure, it might take a little bit of effort to set up, but you can automate these things. And ultimately, every single opportunity to create value, big or small as it is, you should be taking advantage of that. It's like a gift you have to do something really good, and whether you take it or not, it's up to you.
A lot of times it's easiest when you actually sit down as a team, maybe do a couple of days of strategy workshop to brainstorm, or split it into multiple online remote sessions where you can brainstorm about these things. It's hard to think about these things all by yourself. Just for the viewers, listen, I know we're talking about moments of value and moments of truth, but this book, just for the renewal timeline, everything is so well spelled out in every point. When you go into customer health, how to leverage identification of customer risk, how to do customer success plans as part of improving the renewal forecast, segmentation, every little tip and trick for retention. It goes on in this chapter. And so I would just say, you know, there's not enough time for a video to cover all the book and all the goodies that's in there. I would just say, go to Amazon.com or your bookstore of choice and get this awesome book, 7 Pillars of Customer Success by Wayne McCulloch. Wayne, thank you so much for taking the time to go over your brilliant book. I really am happy that we got connected.
Thank you so much for having me. Any of your listeners and viewers sort of have questions and want to go into depth, I'm happy to speak to them. They can also go to www.cspillars.com. I'm trying to create a website for people to come to. I've got hundreds of people signed up already. I'll be doing some newsletters, some thought leadership stuff and other things added, just so people who explore the book, they can download the graphics inside the book. So all that sort of stuff is available on the website. So I'm happy to engage with people there as well.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, smash the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the notifications so you don't miss the next video. Have a great customer success career, everyone.